of breathing, hopefully. So let's just get started straight away. So we are going to stand with our feet hip distance apart. If you're not sure how to find that, feel around roughly where you think your hips are, and when you find the actual bone, you want to point your fingers down and then basically put your feet so that you're pointing at your big toes, so that the big toe is sort of directly underneath the hip bone. We want to try and have our weight equally distributed between our big toe, the outside of our foot, and our heels. We want our knees to be nice and loose. So if you're able to have straight legs and they're still relaxed, that's great. But if, like me, once you straighten your leg, it kind of locks tight and then you feel that tension in your knees, then it's okay to just sort of have your knees slightly bent. Hi, Simon. Just to avoid the tension. We want to feel like we've got a string coming out the top of our head, as if we were a puppet, holding up our heads. So nice long neck, nice long spine, and shoulders down. What we're going to do is we're just going to rock backwards and forwards, and just gradually get the rocking to be smaller and smaller and smaller until we kind of stop in the middle. And then we're going to do the same thing kind of side to side. We're just going to rock and then get smaller and smaller and smaller until we stop in the middle. And this is quite a good way to find the center, because sometimes it's hard to sort of, you know, if your tendency is to lean forward, you don't always know that you're doing it. So if you sort of feel out how that is and then you stop in the middle, hopefully that will help you to find that equal kind of balance. Okay, so we're just going to check there's nothing behind you that you can hit. We're just going to swing from our hips and allow our arms to sort of just stay completely relaxed and just flop round, basically. So we're not moving our arms, they're just sort of swinging with the momentum of us twisting from our hips. And the reason for doing this is it's just a good one to sort of just quickly get you a bit warm, get the blood pumping, kind of gently shaking out any of our little creases that we might have. Very good. Okay, and shake it out. Okay, so each week I'm focusing on a different part of the body, doing some specific exercises in one sort of way or another. So we're on the floor this week, so grab yourself a book if you need one to go underneath your head. We're going to lie down. The reason for having the book is depending on the curvature of your spine, we sort of want our back to be quite flat on the floor. If you've got more of a curvature in your spine, it helps to have a book under your head. I mean, if you try it, you'll sort of see, and some people need one thin book, some people need two books, or I've got quite a big book because I've got quite a curved spine. But you'll sort of figure it out. What we sort of really ideally want is for our back to be quite sort of flat on the floor, so it usually most people need at least one small book. Okay, so we'll just gently, without yanking anything, but almost just stroking, but with the idea that we're trying to get our chin down and our neck to be nice and long, and just resting our head on the book. We're going to bring one knee up, then the other, and just gently, very gently, hug our knees to our chest. And again, this should help to sort of push your back into the floor, just help it sort of straighten out a little bit. Then we're going to put one knee down, then the other knee. And this position here that we're lying in is called semi-supine. We're lying on our back with our knees bent our feet on the floor and our knees pointing to the ceiling. It is a very relaxing position, and it's very, if you ever are having problems with your posture and you don't know how to solve them, if you just sort of lie in this position for a little while, it quite often just helps you to just relax. I'm not saying it would solve all your problems, but it is a very relaxing position. Okay, so we're going to put our arms to the side. We're going to swing our knees one way, so not our whole body. We want to try and leave our hips on the floor, just our knees to one side, and we're going to take our head to the other side. We're going to come back to the center, and the other way. Knees go one direction, and the head is going to look in the opposite direction. And again, you're not pulling anything, you're just looking, just turning your head. And back. Sorry about that, I don't know how that looked to you, but I just got a phone call, so anyway. So knees going in one direction and the head going the other way, and then back to the center, and one more time just to even up. Very good, and back to the center. Okay, so we'll just hug our knees to our chest again. If you want to just gently roll them as well, that's quite nice, and you'll feel this in your back. And that also helps a little bit to stretch out the back. Okay. Then again, one knee down, then the other. Okay. So now we're just going to gently rest our hands on our rib cage. We're not going to push or anything, they're just resting there. And we're just going to breathe normally. But like I say each session, so the way that we breathe, some of you might have heard of, people talking about breathing from your diaphragm if you're trying to project your voice. The truth is, we always use our diaphragm when we breathe. Our lungs are just sort of bags, really, and it's the muscle that makes the movement is called the diaphragm, and it sits just under our rib cage, just sort of here. Now, when most people think of breathing, they think of actively taking in the breath and then relaxing and sighing out the breath. We want to flip that on its side, on its upside down, and we want to push with the diaphragm, engage the muscle, use our muscularity to push, to squeeze the air out. Then we're going to relax, drop the diaphragm, and allow the air to flood back in. So because we're in this position here, we're just going to breathe normally, just get into your own rhythm. But I want you to just, and you can breathe through your nose or your mouth, whatever's comfortable. But I just want you to be aware of the diaphragm working away. And so as we're pushing with our diaphragm to squeeze the air out, I want you to just imagine you're pushing your tummy down towards the floor. And then when you relax and drop the diaphragm, I want you to just think of it opening up towards the ceiling. And because your hands are resting on your rib cage, hopefully that's going to help you feel what's happening as you're breathing. Nice, long, deep breaths. And if you're able to, in your mind's eye, I want you to visualize your lungs filling with air as your diaphragm drops and your rib cage expands. And then pushing, pushing, pushing to squeeze the air out of your lungs. good. So now in your own time, just going to turn to one side, roll round, whichever side is comfortable for you, and come to a kneeling position. I have to move my knees because I don't have enough room. And then just going to kneel up, then one foot, then the other foot into a standing position. Try not to stand too quickly, just because sometimes that can give you a bit of a head rush. So then, once you're back in your standing position, I'll just raise this a little bit more. We're going to get back into our comfortable feet hip distance apart. Knees slightly bent or at least nice and relaxed. String coming out of our head, shoulders down. Like I've said before, I definitely find doing that semi-supine feels much easier. Normally when I sort of do the string coming out of my head, everything's like, whoa. But once I've done the semi-supine, I kind of feel like I'm a bit more naturally in that position. So yeah, I definitely think that's quite a good, if you're concerned about your posture, remember to do that semi-supine. Okay, so again, we're just going to breathe. We're going to get into our own little rhythm. In a minute, we're going to add some arm movements that are going to sort of mirror what's happening inside. So we're going to bring our hands up as we breathe out, representing the diaphragm, pushing to squeeze the air out of our lungs. Then when we relax and drop our diaphragm, we're going to drop our hands down. Then we're going to bring our arms up, and that represents our rib cage expanding as our lungs fill with air. So first we're just going to breathe, and we're going to get into a rhythm. We're going to bend and straighten our knees. Again, if you need to have your knees slightly bent even when your legs are straight, that's absolutely fine. And we're always going to breathe in and out on the up. So it's like a and out and in and out and in and push and relax, drop the diaphragm, and push and relax, and add the arms now. And to the side on the next one. Very good, and shake it all out. We're going to do a nice big yawn and a stretch. So we want to try and remember that open throat kind of feeling. If you're doing public speaking or singing, especially singing, having that nice open throat is a very useful little technique if you want it. Okay, so we're going to get back into our comfortable position. If you want to sit down, now is the time, but I still want you to try and get into the sort of best standing position you can get into, and then you're just going to sort of bend your knees and sit, hopefully there'll be a chair there, and just sit down. It's still the same sort of principle. Try not to cross your legs, try not to hold your knees together, still that sort of same kind of hip distance apart type idea with your legs. If you do want to lie down again in semi-supine, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to talk through these exercises as if we're standing or sitting. So, just if I'm saying look at the wall, obviously you'll be looking at the ceiling if you're lying down. Okay, so we're just going to find a spot on the wall that is roughly our own eye level. That way, obviously, then we don't have to be looking up or down or affecting our posture in any way. If you're able to look in the mirror, that's great, because obviously you've got your perfect eye height straight away. And also, if any little bad habits start sort of creeping in, you can, you can see them, and it's just a bit easier to correct them, because quite often if you're it's hard to be aware of a bad habit, because if it's comfortable to you, you don't notice it when you do it. But if you haven't got a mirror, that's absolutely fine. Just still try and be mindful of what your general posture's doing. So we're just going to channel the air to our spot. And as you're doing it, I want you to be mindful of your diaphragm, pushing, squeezing the air out of your lungs. When you get to the end of the breath, I want you to just try and push a little bit more. You'd be amazed, there's almost always a bit more air in your lungs. When you finally get to the end of the breath, I want you to hold it for as long as you can, and then you're going to just relax, drop the diaphragm. So you're not going to take in a breath, you're just going to allow the breath to come back in. You're just going to relax, drop the diaphragm, allow the air to come back in, and then you're going to push again. Try not to hold on to any of the air, we just want to get all the air out of our lungs, empty our lungs of all that air. Very good. Try not to hold back any air, because what happens then is that you find you need to breathe again. So you take in more breath, and then more, and then more, and then more, and then you're just basically hyperventilating because there's nowhere for that air to be. So we need to just make sure we just get rid of all the air. Okay, so when you get to the end of whatever breath you're on, we're going to switch to a shh sound. And again, if you can visualize it in your mind's eye, the diaphragm pushing, squeezing the air out of your lungs, then relaxing, dropping, allowing the air to flood back in, that's fantastic. If you're not able to visualize it, in whatever way your imagination works, see if you can sort of think about it in however it makes sense to you. If you want to just lightly, again, just lightly put your hands on your ribs, so don't hold it or anything, but just gently, so that you can feel what's going on. Some people find that helpful. If you're going to do that, make sure you don't raise your shoulders as you put them on your rib cage. Just still try and stay nice and relaxed. Everybody else, if your arms are by your sides, make sure that your orientation is this way. So if you were to bend your elbows, they'd go outwards like this, as opposed to sort of that way. Very good. So just when you get to the end of whatever breath you're currently on, have another little shake out. And another big stretch and yawn. Okay, very good. So now we're going to get back into our good position. I want you to look at your spot, and then I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to just breathe normally now. But again, so you can breathe through your nose or your mouth, or combination of the two, whatever feels comfortable to you. But again, what is important is I want you to be thinking about your diaphragm, pushing, squeezing the air out of your lungs, then relaxing, dropping, and just allowing the air to flood back in. And you're just going to get into your own little rhythm. If somebody else is doing this with you, and you can hear them breathing, don't worry about what they're doing. You're just going to relax and get into your rhythm and just breathe, basically. Very good. So now I want you to listen to whatever sounds you can hear outside the room that you're in. There might be cars driving past, it might be raining, it might be completely silent, and then you're going to listen to the silence. There will be other sounds, and there will be other thoughts and noises in your mind, and you can't always block them completely, but you're just not going to listen to them. So they'll be there, but you just won't listen to them. And everything's just going to melt away because you're going to just be listening to whatever sounds you can hear outside the room that you're in. And all the while you're going to push with your diaphragm to squeeze the air out of your lungs. Then relax. Drop the diaphragm and just allow the air to flood back in. Very good. Now I want you to take one step closer with your mind's eye, and I want you to just listen to whatever sounds you can hear inside the room that you're in. And all the while you're going to push with your diaphragm, squeeze the air out of your lungs, then relax. Drop the diaphragm, allow the air to flood back in. Very good. So now I want you to keep pushing with your diaphragm, squeezing the air out of your lungs, then relaxing, dropping the diaphragm, allowing the air to flood back in. Now I want you to take another step closer with your mind's eye, and I want you to just listen to your body. So you might be able to hear your heartbeat. You might be able to hear yourself breathing. You might be completely silent. Then you're going to listen to that silence, and all the while pushing with your diaphragm, squeezing the air out of your lungs, then relaxing, dropping the diaphragm and just allowing the air to flood back in. Very good. So now I want you to keep pushing with your diaphragm, squeezing the air out of your lungs, then relaxing, dropping the diaphragm, allowing the air to flood back in. Now I want you to put those three things together. So you're going to listen to your own body, you're going to listen to the room that you're in, and you're going to listen to the world beyond the room that you're in. And you're going to feel your connection to your environment and feel yourself present in this space and feel your presence in the space. And all the while you're going to push with your diaphragm, squeezing the air out of your lungs, then relax, drop the diaphragm and just allow the air to flood back in. in your own time, I want you to just slowly open your eyes, take a little look around, feel yourself in the space. Well done, everybody. Excellent session. So, oops. We're going to finish as we normally do with our little sing song. So this week's song is Till There Was You. I do have a link in the description to the lyrics. So whilst you're finding that, make sure you open it in a new tab or you'll lose this session. Whilst you're finding it, I'm just going to grab my ukulele and I'm going to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you to everybody who joins me live, and also if you can't make it live but you're watching back, that's great, thank you so much. Special thank you to everybody that is supporting me on PayPal and Patreon also. So whilst we're singing now, we want to try and put this breathing that we've just been working on into practice. So we want to push with our diaphragm to squeeze the words out of our lungs, and then we're going to relax, drop the diaphragm, and just allow the air to flood back in for us to take our next breath. Here we go. There were bells on a hill, but I never heard them ringing. No, I never heard them at all, till there was you. There were birds in the sky, but I never saw them winging. No, I never saw them at all, till there was you. Then there was music and wonderful roses, they tell me, and sweet fragrant meadows of dawn, and too there was love all around, but I never heard it singing. No, I never heard it at all, till there was you. Thank you very much. I will be back tomorrow at 11 AM Greenwich Mean Time, so hopefully I will see you again soon. In the meantime, have an amazing Thursday and keep breathing. Lots of love. Bye.